Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Oxford. I'm Andrew Pfrenger, the president of the Board of Trustees for UUCO and your worship associate today. We're delighted to bring you into today's service entitled, Kindness is the Real Punk Rock. The world is on fire and we still fall in love. The world is on fire and we don't give up. I think that's a good anthem for today. Whether you are a longtime member or a first-time visitor, we welcome you here. We hope you come with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands. Upholding our shared values, we come together today to acknowledge our interdependence, to honor the spirit of generosity, and explore the possibilities of transformation. It is good to be together in this pluralistic community, this congregation that centers love in all that we do. For announcements, obviously you can check out the announcement sheet inside of your order of service. Most of the things that are relevant are printed in there already. I just want to draw your attention to a couple of things on the front of that. The annual UUCO fundraiser silent auction will take place on November 12th. We hope that you will think about some item. Yeah. What? Wendy's looking at me.
That wasn't the date I had in my head, that's all.
You had November 2nd? What is the date that you had? We think it's in early November. It's in November. Which means you have plenty of time to think about items that you might want to, or events that you might want to put up for auction. It's a great fundraiser for UUCO. Also, Michelle Harvey and I are looking for at least 1 or 2 members to join us in a committee for just planning or the execution on the day of, that kind of thing. Just 1 or 2 people to help us out so it's not all on us. That would be great. So if you're interested, let me know after the service or contact Michelle Harvey and we'll get you hooked up. Another announcement to be aware of, the adult series of OWL. What's that?
It's the 16th. It's the 16th.
You shouldn't trust me. I'm just your lonely president.
Does that mean all the calendar pieces?
The 16th is the date, obviously. That's what I was saying. The adult series of OWL. Join us for a special adult series of the award-winning program, Our Whole Lives, using values, communication skills, and spirituality as starting points. This program explores sexuality issues for adults of all ages. It builds understanding of healthy sexual relationships, affirms diversity, and helps participants accept and affirm their own sexuality throughout their lives. It is running today. All are welcome, even if you didn't sign up, so just pop back over here. It runs from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock on the 4th Sunday of the month, but today we're running one. All right? Anything in addition to that you'd like to, Wendy, or? Okay, excellent. So that's all of our announcements. As a reminder, our grief, gratitude, and growth slips are available from the greeter. If you have a moment that you would like to share, please write them down and then drop a slip in the collection basket during the offering so that they can be read aloud later in the service. And now our minister, Reverend Sarah, will help us enter into a time of sacred celebration.
Good morning, beloveds. Good morning. Today is a good day to be rebellious and contrary, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, so just a little factoid about that opening song. That is by Parker Woodland. That band is fronted by a Unitarian Universalist minister, Aaron Walters, and they are on tour right now. I know some of you pop into Texas regularly. She is from Austin, and she has got some tour dates in that western part of the country. So if you are intrigued, look them up. They are LGBTQ friendly, and most of their anthems are reflective of our UU values. So I felt that was a good way to come into this space. And now, if you would come into this circle of community, come into this sacred space, a mosh pit of energy and love, be not tentative and bring your whole self. Bring the joy that makes your heart sing. Bring your kindness and your compassion. And bring also your sorrow and your pain. Bring your brokenness and your disappointments. Spirit of love and mystery, help us to recognize that the spark of the divine that resides in each of us. And may we know the joy of wholeness, and may we know the joy of being together. And let us experience more joy here and now with this beloved community by offering one another a gesture of holy hospitality. You are invited to share a moment with the folks around you, extend a hand in peace, offer a hug, or perhaps simply a word of welcome. And as a practice of consent, if you wish not to engage, simply place a hand over your heart, maybe close your eyes, and people will honor that choice. And now, if you would please turn to your neighbor to your left or your right and briefly greet them. And now, with hearts restored and balanced, let us light the sacred symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, our flaming chalice, with these words. Even as the days grow shorter and our homes shrink smaller and our wicks burn lower, and our will to endure flickers. We light this chalice to kindle a flame of warmth as a reminder of the connection that draws us in to a community that opens us up. In gratitude for the breath in our lungs, and for the love in our hearts, and for the gift of this day, alive. And now, if you will join me in our community hymn number 301, Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky. Please rise in body or spirit as you are able. And Tycho, a word?
We have never done this one before, so I'll play it once. One thing that we'll do is you guys will make sure grab the last note is dotted quarter, so it's 3/8. I'm going to do 2. Another second, make sure grab. All right.
All 5 verses?
Yeah.
It's pretty short.
Thomas for our time for all ages this morning. Afton.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Yes. So this book is Adrian Simcox Does Not Have a Horse by Mary Campbell and Karina Lubkin. It has pictures in it, and the pictures are important. So I'm going to read, and then I'll turn it around so you can see. Okay? I sure can. Let's see if it'll stay for me. Okay, I yanked a little hard. Is that better? No? Okay, and I'll also try to project a little bit more. Adrian Simcox sits all by himself, probably daydreaming again. And Adrian Simcox tells anyone who will listen that he has a horse. He's the redhead. Some kids believe him, but I don't. He lives in town like me, and I know you can't have a horse in town. Where would he put it? I asked Jamie at recess. Jamie said Adrian lives with his grandpa, and their house is very small, and there's hardly any yard. She said the horse goes to the country sometimes. That's what Adrian said. Ha! Jamie will believe anything. I told my mom about Adrian's horse and how he definitely does not have one. She said. And how would you know, Miss Smarty Pants? Because I know Adrian Simcox does not have a horse. Adrian Simcox gets the free lunch at school. His shoes have holes. Kelsey told me her cousin has a horse, and it's super expensive. He can't take care of a horse. Adrian Simcox can't even take care of his own desk. Our teacher always says we must try to be understanding. We have to be patient. But I was tired of being patient with Adrian Simcox and tired of trying to understand why he kept telling everybody he had a horse when he did not. The next day, by the swings, he was telling a bunch of little kids about his beautiful horse with its white coat and golden mane, saying she had the biggest, brownest eyes of any horse anywhere. So, I yelled from the monkey bars, "He's lying! Adrian Simcox does not have a horse." Even though I was upside down, I could see that made Adrian Simcox really sad. That night, I told my mom how Adrian was lying about his horse again, and she said, "Chloe, it's time to take Chompers for his walk. A little dog is a perfectly normal pet to have in town." Mom walked even faster than usual, so I had to run with Chompers to keep up. But when she got to the corner where we always turned left, she turned right. "Why are we going over here?" I asked. Chompers loved it, but I didn't. All the houses looked like they might fall down, and even though it wasn't trash day, it looked like it was. But Mom kept walking. When someone said evening, she said evening right back. And then I saw him, Adrian Simcox, at a little house down the street. I stopped walking. Chompers kept pulling. "That's Adrian Simcox," I said. "Yes, I know. I met his grandpa at the back-to-school picnic. Now come on," said Mom. It was the tiniest house I've ever saw. It was like half of our house. Mom started talking to Adrian's grandpa, and Adrian said, "I like your dog." Chompers pulled the leash from my hand and went over and licked Adrian Simcox right on the face. I could see the backyard. It was no place for a horse, that's for sure. Chloe knows everything. I could feel some words coming up in my throat and tangling in there, like when I swallowed something and it went down the wrong pipe. "You do not have a horse." But I didn't say it because of how Adrian was looking and how it reminded me of when I told those little kids he was lying. Adrian Simcox tossed the ball to me. I caught it. I tossed it back to him. It was kind of cool to see Adrian Simcox smile. So I asked him, "Is your horse at a farm?" And Adrian started talking about his horse with a white coat and golden mane and the biggest, brownest eyes of any horse anywhere. And then I thought, Adrian Simcox had just about the best imagination of any kid in our whole school. There's one more picture, if we cannot see it in this one. I also thought he had the most beautiful horse of anyone, anywhere. You see it? I'll also pass the book around so you can go to the last page. Thank you.
Thank you, Afton, for sharing. I know my son has a collection of not horses. He's got like a vivid imagination, but it's full of like monsters and creatures. But it's very full, just like that.
So we can,
Yeah.
and now you want to go back to tea? Yeah.
Yeah, he's back there waiting for you with his monsters.
Speaking of.
All right. DC Fortune writes, "My theology understands humanity as simultaneously fragile and resilient, weak and strong, greedy and generous, mean and compassionate. I see the divine spark in the tensions between those opposites. I see the divine in the generosity of those who often have the least to give, in kindness offered by those who would arguably have the most reason to be bitter. The divine is like love in this regard, irrational, unexpected, and beautiful. We recognize a holy spark in our willingness to be generous with each other, with this community and beyond. Each week we take up a financial collection that represents our commitment to generosity. Our offering is split, with half going to our monthly Share the Plate designee and half going to support the mission of UUCO. Our Share the Plate recipient this month is YAC, the Arts Council. Notice how I skipped the first word because I was too afraid. Yakin Batafa? Arts Council. YAC's mission is to ensure a place for arts in the community by offering a diverse range of programs, professional development services, and support to serve both artists and residents living in Lafayette County. Their programs offer opportunities and resources for students and emerging artists while providing support to over 20 different arts organizations, including live theater, dance, concerts, creative arts classes, culinary experiences, film screenings, festivals, and more. It's a real treasure in our community. The Arts Council manages the Powerhouse Community Arts Center, the Old Armory Pavilion, the Lafayette County Arena, and the Yakima Sculpture Trail. Also, please remember to drop any grief, gratitude, and growth cards in the offering basket as they go around. And now our morning offering will gratefully be received.
By the work of our hands and the work of our hearts, our love is made real. As we acknowledge our gifts, may we be grateful for all that is given and grateful for all that is shared. And now, as the wheel turns to the season of balance and restoration, the days of awe, the new year for our Jewish siblings who celebrate Rosh Hashanah on Monday and who will celebrate Yom Kippur on Wednesday. It is a good time for us all to reflect on our place in the circle of life, to make amends and promises, so that kindness guides us in the pursuit towards wholeness. And would you please join me in a responsive reading that honors this occasion? The response is actually printed at the bottom of your order of service on the first page. It's "We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love." And this is the Litany of Atonement by Reverend Robert Eller Isaacs. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference. We forgive ourselves and each other, and we begin again in love. For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible, we forgive ourselves and each other, we begin again in love. For each time that we have struck out in anger without just cause, we forgive ourselves and each other, and we begin again in love. For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others, we forgive ourselves and each other, and we begin again in love. For the selfishness which sets us apart and alone, we forgive ourselves and each other, and we begin again in love. For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit, we forgive ourselves and each other, we begin again in love. For losing sight of our unity, we forgive ourselves and each other, we begin again in love. And for those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness, we forgive ourselves and each other, and we begin again in love. And now, let us enter into the ritual like the one before us, one that asks us to be vulnerable in our expression and gracious in our witness, so that we may share what is on our hearts and lay it at the altar of community and spirit. Using a pebble dropped into a bowl of water to symbolize the ripple effects of the events of our lives upon the larger community, we will now share the grief, gratitude, and moments of growth that have touched our lives since we were last together. And of course, our first pebble is one of gratitude for our visitors and friends. We are so very glad and joyful that you are here with us this morning. From Sue Fino, a pebble of gratitude. Thanks to Gwen, who is publishing the weekly newsletter, for adding links to Oxford and other events such as the UU World, Square Books events, Old Miss events, etc. From Cheryl, a pebble of grief. Please keep Mark and Carrie Dewey in your thoughts as they deal with Mark's terminal brain tumor. And another pebble of grief. Remember the Knight family. The mom, Gwen Knight, suffered a fatal aneurysm last week, leaving her husband and 2 sons. And from Andy, a pebble of gratitude to the Oxford High School Theater and Mr. Davenport for keeping the arts alive and thriving here in Oxford. Greece was wonderful, and we look forward to Peter and the Wolf in November. Hallelujah. It's a fun show run they've got going on there. And finally, we drop a pebble into the water for all the grief, gratitude, and moments of growth that remain held in the sanctuary of our hearts. These joys and sorrows, too, are held in this community of care and by a love that is limitless. Amen.
Hopefulness in Bad Times by Howard Zinn. To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. if we remember those times and places, and there are so many, where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act, and at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act, in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents, and to live now, as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is itself a marvelous victory. Now, please join me in a seated singing meditation of hymn number 1031 in your teal hymnal, Filled with Loving Kindness. All three?
Yes.
All three.
Everybody ready?
You gonna give us two measures, or
I'll do the last two ones, because we know this one pretty well.
Towards our punk rock theme, Rebellion by April Browning. Kindness is soft, rebellion against cruelty. Rebellion is gentleness in a world built on rage. Kindness is the spiked collar of compassion, the mosh pit where empathy refuses to be drowned out. It shocks, it disrupts, it refuses the algorithm of hate. It's DIY hope, stitched in small acts that refuse to conform. Kindness is the loudest quiet revolution. In a world of keyboard warriors where silence is drowned by shouts and clout is counted in followers, not in the warmth of reaching out. Raise your banner of gentleness. Let empathy be your anthem loud. It's easy to sneer from the shadows, harder to soften a hardened crowd. Kindness is leather stitched in stitches, safety pins holding broken parts. It's tattoos of laughter on scarred skin, and rebellion written in open hearts. While others posture for the spotlight, you gift your glow to the dark and spark in the endless scrolling void. That's true anarchy. That's true art. So lace up your boots of mercy, dye your hair in shades of grace, because kindness is the new punk rock, and it's ready to storm the stage.
I have to tell you really quickly about that poem. One of my dearest friends, April Browning, wrote that poem for me in about 5 minutes. You see, we were chatting on Facebook Messenger, and it was Mabon, it was the fall equinox. And I was bemoaning, oh, I've decided to do this sermon on kindness is the real punk rock. And she goes, ma'am. And I was like, what? And she's like, hold on a minute. And I see the little dots blinking, 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 blinking. And the poem starts revealing itself. She wrote it right then and there, this whole thing. And she said, the muse has struck me, Sarah. I was like, well, I need to borrow that muse, please and thank you. She is a powerhouse to think of those words. And I love the dye your hair in shades of grace.
Wow.
What a gift she has. She's also an author. She has published works on Amazon under A. Browning. So if you want to find her other books of poetry and prose, they're there. So let's switch gears to this punk rock business. I want to set the stage for you. Can you imagine 16-year-old Sarah at the height of 90s grunge, wearing Doc Marten combat boots, thrifted jeans ripped into shorts, a Ramones t-shirt, and my dad's old army jacket? Just a point of order, if y'all don't know, my maiden name is Pfrenger. Those of you of a certain age will get the rebellion, and this Pfrenger happened to be the cross-dresser army guy from MASH, and I proudly wore his jacket. And this look, I believe, was the manifestation of my rebellion to the Catholic schoolgirl uniform that I had to wear 4 days a week. Wednesdays were dress-down days, hence the punk outfit. I wanted to be clear, as any teenager could be, that I was unique, an individual, that I wasn't a sheep just following the crowd. I wanted to be known as a free thinker, as a radical, transmitting my holy rage, as a budding, edgy feminist who realized the patriarchy and capitalism held us all in its grasp. And no, I was not going to play into the game set before me. Of course, many of my friends also wore similar outfits, and, well, ironically, those Doc Martens cost a fortune. And my mother, she made me swear that I would wear them until the day that I got married if she was going to fork over that kind of coin for a pair of ugly shoes. And much to my daughter's chagrin, I actually held on to those boots until after she was born, but sold them for 50 cents in a garage sale before moving to Memphis. But isn't that rather punk of me? She was disappointed because, you know, it's all come back, and she was like, Mom, I could have worn those. I was like, yes, you could have. And also, I was tired of holding on to them, but I did hold on to them past that wedding date. I think most of us go through periods in our life where we're trying to figure out who we are and what's most essential to us. And teenage rebellion is honestly predictable, but also super important. And while I hung up that outfit, although I do have a couple of Ramon t-shirts still in the closet that I wear, the attitude and the lessons do remain. For the casual observer, punk is and was odd. It seems angry and violent. It's loud and it's brash and it's brutal. Have you ever participated in a mosh pit? All right, gal. Oh, y'all, that's gonna give her some street cred over there, you know. So mosh pitting, that's, you know, bodies flinging about and jumping up and down, pogoing and slamming into one another and stage diving, or even better, being held up as you travel across the audience, swarming across bodies. It's a recipe for chaos, and the potential for hurt is pretty great. Hence the combat boots that have steel-tipped toes so your toes don't get ruined. But that risk-taking is appealing. And there are rules in the pit, and people are supposed to know how to look out for one another if they're doing it right. And like most dances, what appears wild is actually a collaboration of sorts holding the potential of a spiritual experience. But I'm too old for that dancing nowadays. Probably break a hip. But not too old to listen and learn to the wisdom of punk. A colleague and friend of mine from seminary, James Clark, he serves as a punk pastor, chaplain at concerts and festivals. And at festivals, he sets up a pastoral care space that he calls the vent tent, which I kind of love. And it's where he and a few other punk pastors create space that provides ceremony and connection and sanctuary. And he tells me about what these spaces mean to him and others, saying, nobody can stop the storm of suffering in the world. But for 3 days every summer, we can provide sanctuary to each other and remind ourselves that everyone is worthy of finding beloved community. James tells me, at its core, punk affirms and validates people who have experienced and chosen to rebel against the abuse and excess of authority. Punk also celebrates radical inclusivity while prophetically challenging people to confront structures of evil. And I would argue that punk is to music what Unitarian Universalism is to faith. The free thinkers, the rebels, railing against the machine, that's us. That's who we are. And most of the time, I stand here asking us to consider ways to find peace, to restore balance, to experience serenity when the world is on fire. And I still think that is so necessary. And sometimes we need more. My service to you all is to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. That music this morning, some of you may have been a little uncomfortable. Today's message may fall into the latter category of affliction. I think punk might do the trick of providing some healthy discomfort. And I think sometimes we need a good, strong pop and anthem to amp up our enthusiasm and commitment as a people of faith to the long haul work of becoming good humans. And speaking of good humans, has anyone seen the new Superman movie? The title of today's service, of course, if you are paying attention, was inspired by the latest iteration as envisioned by director-writer Magnifico James Gunn. And if you haven't seen this movie, it is a real treat. Probably one of the better superhero movies that I've seen in a hot minute, and I love movies and superheroes. And if you haven't seen it, it's currently streaming on HBO Max, or you can rent it off of Amazon Prime. So if you want to go and check it out if you haven't yet. And, as a character, Superman was created in 1938 by writer and illustrator duo Siegel and Schuster, both from Jewish immigrant families, young men envisioning a hero for their time. And like many characters created for the comics, Superman has undergone many revisions, gaining and losing powers. His looks have evolved alongside his famous logo and the cape. In more recent years, Superman has stood as an icon for American ideals. And in some productions, one could argue that Superman stood in for a Christ figure, a savior that could single-handedly save the world. The people of Metropolis relied upon Superman to save them from their own destruction. And I guess because he was more physically capable than your average human, it was expected too that he serve as the expert in moral authority. But thinking that this is the sum total of who Superman is just as narrowly twisted as those who think Jesus would approve of our current political leaders' Christian methodologies towards treating neighbors and immigrants and trans folks. The Savior, Man of Steel, and the armed dump truck should not hold us captive, nor should we wait on them to save the day. It ain't happening, folks. And in this new iteration, James Gunn's Superman is, well, more human. Not to give spoilers, but there are so many relevant lessons in this new story that I think lift up the values of Unitarian Universalism and are relatable to the kind of, if you will, the kind of Jesus that many UUs could support, that real human guy, the one that UUs kind of tend to like. The human Jesus who cared for children and animals and implored us to love one another. And I could go down the rabbit hole with all the parallels. And if that's an uncomfortable religious concept talking about him, insert another famous holy person. The point is the same. Kindness, love, treating others fairly. So what can I tell you about this movie without giving away too much? In this production, Superman is seen by the government and rich capitalists, Lex Luthor, as a threat, a suspicious alien, a foreigner not to be trusted. And while it is true that he is from someplace else, he has learned what it means to be human. And he doesn't react to the mistrust in kind. No, he keeps on being compassionate. His adoptive parents have taught him what it means to center love. And his moral compass directs him to give aid to those in need. And sometimes his aid isn't politically popular, but it's the right thing to do. And this Superman is not a one-man show. He knows he can't and shouldn't take on all the world's problems. He knows he needs help from his friends and co-workers. You know, the Justice Gang. They're not the lead yet. It's a work in progress. This Superman understands collaboration is much more powerful to building the beloved community. Midram Sharma writes, this Superman embodies what Carl Jung would call the caregiver archetype rather than the traditional hero. Where most superheroes follow Jung's hero archetype, seeking to prove worth through courageous acts while fearing weakness, this Superman is motivated by a genuine desire to protect and care for others. He saves a squirrel, for crying out loud. And he cries, and he fears, and he wants to love and be loved, and he has insecurities. He wants to belong, and above all, he is kind. And he craves connection, and he's willing to adapt, to be vulnerable, to accept his true self in service of that connection. He becomes not just a superhero, but a superhuman. And let me tell you, the distinction matters enormously. His greatest power isn't his ability to fly and spray red beams from his eyes. It's his capacity to remain vulnerable, to stay connected, to choose love, even when it's harder than choosing violence. And in our current moment of global conflict, climate crisis, and social division, maybe we need heroes who save squirrels and show tears more than we need invincible gods among mortals. Maybe the most revolutionary thing Superman can do isn't lifting a building, it's admitting he needs help, accepting love, and choosing compassion consistently. In one of the more impactful scenes of the film, Lois Lane and Superman's Clark are talking about their love for punk rock music and arguing which bands are more authentically punk. And Lois claims the bands that Clark loves are just too mainstream. They're just pop music. And Lois says she's punk and Clark isn't. And it's so important to Lois in this argument to be the edgy, hard-hitting, authentic reporter that she almost misses Clark's connection to the truth about punk. Lois says, "My point is, I question everything and everyone, and you, Clark, trust everyone and think everyone you ever met is like beautiful." And Clark says, "Maybe that's the real punk rock." Trusting everyone and thinking everyone you ever met is beautiful is the real punk rock. That's so you. It's like our inherent dignity and worth, right? And what's more anti-establishment than that? That everyone that you meet is beautiful. That's hard. And in this moment, I had an aha, like Lois represents the Unitarian theology of questioning and seeking, while Clark represents the Universalist theology of love as salvation. And oh, this UU minister is happy to witness this moment in film and see it, how it unfolds for these characters. Because that moment's pivotal for both of them. It clarifies who they are and whose they are. Superman's ultimate power is love, and kindness is the real punk rock, a path of gentle rebellion, a spark in the endless void. And this Superman gives me hope. He reminds me that we can make a difference not through brute strength and fear and control, but through helping and loving and seeing the beauty all around us. Michael J. Miller writes about the impact of this Superman movie. It becomes a vehicle for every adult who sees it to rekindle the fire of their youthful belief, and in doing so, take the warm, shining, momentarily overwhelming light we feel watching the movie out into the rest of the world with us, believing and trusting, helping, hoping, and being kind to everyone we meet wherever we go. Perhaps our kryptonite is forgetting hope, ignoring compassion, thinking that we must be perfect, being inauthentic, curated Instagram versions of ourselves, and too mainstream. And what if we could just let that go? What if we can just drop that kryptonite into the bottom of the ocean of our souls where it holds no power over us? And instead, may we be strengthened by each other, by youthful exuberance and rebellion. If the core of punk rock is being vulnerable and honest and questioning of authority and committed to creating something collectively real, then perhaps we, as seeking and loving Unitarian Universalists, might claim to be punk rockers too. One of my favorite punk pastors, Nadia Bowles-Weber, writes in her book, Accidental Saints, Finding God in All the Wrong People. She's great if you aren't familiar with her. And this is it. This is the life that we get here on earth. We get to give away what we receive. We get to believe in each other. We get to forgive and be forgiven. We get to love imperfectly. And we never know what effect it will have for years to come. And all of it is completely worth it. 16-year-old punk Sarah, she still lives in here, still raging against inequality in the machine. But now I have a deeper understanding, a more nuanced position in the revolution, thanks in part to the stories and messages like this Superman that remind me that love and compassion will truly save us. And I want to believe that we are all punk rockers at heart and in this faith. dancing our way towards liberation. May it be so. And now we are going to release our flaming chalice with these words. Beloveds, as we release the chalice flame and conclude our time in this holy space, nourished and renewed, let us remember, no matter how weak or how frightened we may feel, we each have gifts that make a difference in the world. In the coming week, may you do one thing to support the broken, to welcome the stranger, to celebrate what is worthy, to do the work of justice and love. Be strong, be kind, be connected. Each day act so that you may be a little more whole. And if you would rise in body or spirit to join me in our closing hymn number 6, just as long as I have breath.
This one's quite familiar. What we do with that. At least one thing on.
Okay.
So I'll do the last 2 bars and then we'll get right into it.
Remain standing, please. As we come to the end of our service, please join me in reciting our congregational blessing printed in our order of service. It's very familiar. Go in peace, believe in peace, create peace, be peace. Go in peace, believe in peace, create peace, be peace, and be Punkrock.
And y'all, you may be seated for our postlude. You may walk about the cabin, get a snack, chit chat, but y'all, it would be unfair for me not to play this one as we end our time together. Feel free to dance. Yeah, Rock and Roll High. That was my first introduction to them as a little kid.
I saw that with my first year at Harvard, and I had known about them all the time. I was a pastor. I always kept being there. I had friends. I follow everybody in there. I still don't know what my voice situation is. I have my mind, I just can't get my mind is around. I think I have to do it. I can't do that.
That's fine.
It has to be. I can't bring all these books. I have 40 million.
Yeah, just set up the terms. Like if you have like a limit of how many
I can have
people.
12 people. If we get enough, we'll down.
Yeah, I think it's great.
But I think it
Just
has to
write up
be
a
my
blurb,
mind.
give us dates, we'll put it on the calendar, we'll get it advertised, it'll be great.
I've gotten back to it and I really got excited about it, but I just, I'm a little bit unsure about cost. We so far have no solution, but I'm not sick. It's not symptomatic of anything awful. And one of the things that nurse practitioners who often doctors said, I think she said, you definitely have something, but I think the reason it seems so horrible when you talk, it's something in your, I always sounded that way when I had bronchitis and all that. He said, well, there's something in your actual throat, I believe, that causes
You know, my
more overwhelming cough than normal.
my grandmother ended up having to have her esophagus stretched a couple of
Well, there's
times,
a possibility of something.
and I mean, she did fine with it. So
She said, there's just something, I think, inherent. She said, everybody, lots of people have this cough, it's usually last for a month. It could be just an allergy, but she said, nobody sounds like you do.